Hollywood has repeated her story 1,000 times, but never in her own voice. To the world, she was Marilyn Monroe, a comet of light, a face that could stop a city. But beneath the glare lived Norma Jeane, a woman who wrote in the quiet between camera flashes, private notes, letters, and therapy scribbles that map a heart trying to stay human inside a myth. These pages, tucked away for years, reveal a mind far sharper than the headlines, and a loneliness no spotlight could warm. They trace the careful construction of Marilyn, the cost of wearing her like a costume, and the fragile hope that someone might love the person underneath. What if the most famous woman on earth wasn't chasing fame at all, but safety? And what if the secrets she left behind don't explain a sensational ending, but illuminate a life? Its hunger, its tenderness, its breaking points. Tonight, we let Marilyn speak, through the words she never performed, only wrote. Stay with us, and the legend will fall away until a woman remains, breathing on paper.
Marilyn. She was simply Norma Jeane Mortensen, a little girl who learned early that the world could vanish overnight. She was born on June 1, 1926, in a small Los Angeles hospital to a fragile woman named Gladys Pearl Baker, a film cutter at RKO Studios who dreamed of glamour but lived inside shadows. Gladys was intelligent, hardworking, and haunted by a family history of mental illness that lingered like a silent storm over her life. Norma never met her father. His name was missing from her birth certificate, a blank space that would echo through every corner of her heart. When Gladys's mind began to break, the little girl was taken from her arms and sent to foster homes, more than 10 in total, each with a new door, a new name, and a new set of rules. At one point, she lived with the Boland family, where she scrubbed floors before she learned to read. Later, she was placed in the care of Grace Goddard, her mother's friend, who tried to offer stability. But the damage was done. Every move left her more certain of one truth: love never stayed. She found small escapes in daydreams of bright lights, movie screens, and women whose faces everyone admired. One day, she whispered to herself in the dark, they'll love me too. At 16, to escape another foster placement, she married her neighbor's son, James Doherty, a boy barely older than her. It was not love, it was survival. While he went off to war, Norma Jeane began working in a munitions factory. There, among rows of machinery and uniforms, a photographer from the military's publicity division spotted her, a shy girl whose smile seemed to light up the gray factory air. He took her picture. That click, that single shutter, would change everything. It was the first time anyone had looked at her, not as a burden, but as something luminous. For the first time, Norma felt seen. Yet even then, she could not have known that the camera, that small square of glass and light, would one day both save and consume her.
The photograph from that wartime factory became her passport to a new life. It appeared in a small magazine for servicemen, and within weeks, she was invited to pose for pinup shoots that made lonely soldiers smile. Modeling felt natural to Norma Jeane. Each flash of the camera offered what her childhood never had: approval, attention, warmth. But behind the confident poses, she was still learning how to become someone the world would not abandon. When she walked into the offices of 20th Century Fox in 1946, the studio executives liked her enthusiasm, but thought her name was forgettable. They suggested something brighter, something that could fit neatly on a marquee. Marilyn Monroe was born that afternoon, the first name borrowed from a Broadway star, the last from her mother's maiden name. And just like that, Norma Jeane began to disappear. Her first films, Dangerous Years, Scudda Hoo, Scudda Hey, barely showed her face,
but audiences remembered the shimmer. Determined, she studied acting with Natasha Lytes, practicing the way to tilt her head, how to let her voice fall like honey, how to make every glance feel like a secret. It wasn't vanity, it was armor. By 1950, small roles in The Asphalt Jungle and All About Eve caught critics' attention. The public wanted more. Fox polished her into their blonde sensation, bleaching her brown hair until it glowed beneath the lights. "You have to be sparkly," one agent said, "so they won't see the sadness." Success came quickly and brutally. Niagara turned her into an obsession. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and How to Marry a Millionaire crowned her the reigning goddess of the silver screen. Headlines called her the girl every man wants and every woman envies. In private, she wrote, "I'm tired of being a thing called a symbol. I want to be a person." Her notebook became her refuge, a quiet counterpoint to the noise of fame. On set, she often lingered after everyone left, writing in looping cursive about fear, loneliness, and the strange emptiness of applause. When she founded Marilyn Monroe Productions in 1955 to choose her own scripts, Hollywood mocked her, but Bus Stop proved them wrong. Her performance was raw, human, heartbreaking. Critics finally called her an actress, not a joke. Yet she confided to a friend, "They still see Marilyn. They never see me." Underneath the glamour, she was drifting. The image she had created now owned her.
Behind the laughter and camera flashes, Marilyn's greatest longing was never for fame. It was for love that wouldn't vanish when the lights went out. Every romance she touched began like a fairy tale and ended like an elegy. Her first great love was Joe DiMaggio, the Yankee Clipper, America's baseball hero. They met in 1952, the shy athlete and the movie goddess. To the public, they looked perfect, beauty and strength, America's golden couple. But behind closed doors, the tenderness turned to control. Joe adored the woman he thought she was, not the one she struggled to become. The more the world looked at her, the more he tried to hide her away. After the famous scene in The 7-Year Itch, her white dress billowing over the subway grate, Joe erupted in fury. A week later, she filed for divorce. In her diary, she wrote, "I guess marriage isn't for someone who belongs to everyone." A few years later, she found herself drawn to another kind of man, Arthur Miller, the Pulitzer-winning playwright whose intellect fascinated her. Marilyn believed he saw past her surface, into her mind. They married in 1956, and she called him my gentle genius. For a time, she thought she had found peace. Yet even love built on words can break under the weight of reality. She discovered one of Miller's notebook entries where he confessed disappointment in her, the moment she later described as feeling the earth crack open beneath me. Hollywood, meanwhile, was growing crueler. Gossip columns speculated about her lateness on set, her dependency on pills to sleep, her fragile nerves. Few knew she was battling anxiety, insomnia, and the suffocating pressure to remain perfect. Her sessions with Dr. Ralph Greenson, her psychiatrist, became her lifeline. Through therapy, she wrote more, poems, fragments, notes to herself. In one, she confessed, "I live in a world of mirrors. Everyone sees what they want, but no one sees me." Her notebooks began to blur the line between Norma and Marilyn, between the woman and the invention. She wrote of feeling split in two, like being alive in two skins, both too tight. Then came the friendships that would stir endless speculation. President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert. To her, they weren't political figures. They were men who seemed to listen. But her closeness to them would feed tabloid fantasies that never stopped. She wrote nothing explicit in her journals, only one cryptic line: "I love men who belong to the world, not to me."
By 1961, her marriage to Miller had collapsed, her career was faltering, and the woman the world called the happiest girl in Hollywood was sinking into silence. Yet through all of it, she still dreamed of love, not the kind on movie posters, but the kind that made her feel real. Her final notebook entries, written in the months before her death, carry the quiet ache of someone exhausted by feeling too deeply. Please let me sleep. I feel everything too much. When the cameras stopped, she would sit by the window, notebook open, light falling across the page. She wrote to no one, for no one, except perhaps herself. The same light that made her immortal was now burning her alive. By the summer of 1962, the legend of Marilyn Monroe had grown too large for the woman who lived inside it. Her every breath was public property, every silence turned into rumor. The studio had fired her from Something's Got to Give after a string of absences caused by illness and exhaustion. The press called her unstable. Executives whispered that she was finished. But in her letters to friends, she spoke of a quiet comeback. She was healing, writing again, dreaming of starting over. That August evening, her Brentwood home glowed softly beneath the California sky. No one knows exactly what happened inside, and perhaps that mystery is the final mercy she was given. What we do know is that the next morning, the world awoke to headlines that froze time. Marilyn Monroe dead at 36. Cameras and strangers gathered outside her small white house, as if the world itself couldn't believe that the light had gone out. The newspapers wrote about glamour and scandal. The coroner wrote probable suicide. But the pages she left behind told a different story, not of fame or failure, but of a woman still reaching for hope. In those last notebooks, later published as fragments, there was no talk of conspiracy, only longing. One note read, "Life, I am both of your directions, somewhere between desire and fear." Joe DiMaggio, the man who once couldn't protect her, arranged her funeral quietly. He banned Hollywood from attending and placed roses on her grave 3 times a week for 20 years. Arthur Miller stayed away, unable to face the ghost of what they'd lost. In death, Marilyn became eternal. The world continued to project its fantasies onto her. The blonde bombshell, the tragic muse, the American dream undone. But the secret diaries pulled the curtain aside. They revealed a mind that wrestled with identity, art, and the meaning of love in a world that prized surfaces. Today, her words echo louder than any movie line she ever spoke. They show us a woman who is never merely an image, but an artist searching for truth within herself. In a note written on hotel stationery, she penned, "I am trying to find myself before someone else invents me again." It's hard to say whether she succeeded, but perhaps that's not the point. The tragedy of Marilyn Monroe is not that she died young, it's that she was never allowed to simply be. And yet, in the soft whisper of her handwriting, in the ache of her poetry, she lives. The light that once blinded her now glows gently, guiding those who have ever felt unseen. She was called an icon, a goddess, a dream made flesh. But when the legend fades and the camera cuts to black, what remains is a woman who only ever wanted to be known. Not as a fantasy, not as a symbol, but as herself. In every page of her hidden journals, Marilyn Monroe, or rather Norma Jeane, reaches out with fragile honesty. Her words are tender, frightened, and astonishingly clear. She writes about love, fear, beauty, and the small hope that her life might mean something beyond the glare of fame. And in those unfinished sentences, she gives us a gift rarer than any performance: truth. I am good, but not an angel. I do sin, but I am not the devil. I am just a small girl in a big world, trying to find someone to love. More than 60 years later, we still chase her reflection, searching for pieces of ourselves in her story. Maybe that's why she endures, because behind the perfection of her smile was the same ache we all carry: to be seen, to be understood, to be loved without conditions. Marilyn Monroe did not belong to Hollywood. She belonged to humanity, to every soul who's ever felt both adored and invisible at once. Her light was too bright for her time, but it continues to glow softly for us now, reminding us that even legends bleed, and that beauty without truth is only illusion. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join us next time as we uncover more untold stories from Hollywood's golden age, where behind every spotlight, there's a heartbeat waiting to be heard.